everyone. My name's Janine Perez and welcome to the latest episode of Made for Marketers, the show where marketing leaders share their smarts in strategy and execution to help drive the customer journey and deliver growth. And today we're talking about the topic of marketing to a niche audience. Joining us today is Nicole Papoutsis, Head of Marketing and Brand for Genea, across 5 brands in the group, including, of course, the leading Genea Fertility. Nicole's work has been recognised. She was top 50 CMO list for 2018, has made the Marketing Mavericks list for BT for 2020. And of course, her team has been recognised as a finalist as Marketing Team of the Year awards for BT as well. So they're definitely punching above their weight. So really excited to have Nicole join us today and talk about this topic of marketing to a niche audience. Thanks for joining us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
The topic that you guys talk about and the predominant sort of area of fertility, of course, is quite a sensitive, deeply personal, emotionally charged area. So how do you go about really marketing to your audience and balancing that sensitivity with getting strong cut through messaging?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I've been at Genea for actually 10 years. This Monday, so it's been a
congrats.
And I think I've seen a lot of change across the sector, particularly over the last 5 or so years. And I think that brand tone really helps tone of voice really helps to dictate what you're and how you're speaking to the audience. And yes, you definitely do need to balance that sensitivity for the topic and the need to create brand awareness and get people taking action. I think the way we look at it is we really focus on being there when people want us to be there as opposed to when we want to be there. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in the back of our minds, particularly around sharing information that people can take away and really digest, because it's a really complex area, IVF. And a fertility journey can be 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 10 years. So people can be coming in and out of it over quite a long period of time. So I see that as an opportunity for us to really have people engage with the Genea brand much longer than some other brands or some other categories. So yeah, it is challenging and we don't always get it right. I'm not saying that we've been 100% in the way we have communicated over the time, but I think that my team is really tuned into the sensitivity of our service. And what people are going through being such a highly emotive topic and something for people.
Yeah, and something you just touched on there actually was this idea of being there when your audience wants you to, not necessarily when you want to. And that talks to that sense of, I guess, to some degree, personalisation, if we think about that at a broader level, in terms of really, being tuned in, as you say, and delivering almost just-in-time information to help your audience, particularly, I suppose, your current customers or people, going through their journey who have engaged with your brand, helping them navigate the what's next. Is that something that you tend to focus more on versus, I suppose, more the kind of outbound marketing? I guess it is a balance of both, but that just struck me as you talked about that sense of being there when they need you to be there with the right information is quite critical for such a niche audience as well.
It is. And I think that's why a lot of our activity centres around content, because it does lend itself really well to this type of topic. And given these people are highly researched, they're researching, looking for information all the time, and figure out what's going on with their bodies, something that was supposed to be so natural and easy in the way that it's portrayed everywhere else. It's still a little bit of a taboo topic. Yes, we absolutely do focus on having information there that people can access, and we like to think of ourselves as thought leaders and really at the forefront of the right information at the right time. And it really, at the end of the day, we're all about helping people create families. So if we can help them achieve a pregnancy, not just through IVF, but through having the right information. And it's all about timing with fertility. So yeah, taking those steps at the right time, it really, that just drives us every day. So it's wonderful.
Fantastic. And we'll get onto the topic of the importance of content as part of that mix a bit later, because I know you do heavily invest in that space, and it's great to see that you're really getting the results of that. I want to step back a little bit and talk about, obviously our topic today is around niche audiences, and the fertility sector is obviously a very niche audience.
Yeah.
Your experience, what is the most effective way to kind of uncover, given it's such a, you know, relatively small part of the population, and it is such a personal topic, so there isn't necessarily, people aren't as open necessarily with their needs you might expect in other industries. What's your approach in terms of uncovering some of those motivations? How do you kind of get under the, you know, get to the grips of what it is that people actually do need at different points? How do you uncover that?
Look, I mean, I suppose you can't go past a good research program to try and uncover some of those needs and those different mindsets. So although it's a really niche audience, when you talk about IVF, fertility, I mean, 1 in 6 couples will struggle to conceive. So it's not, you know, right down into that niche area. And people, you don't really know if they need IVF. They might think they do. So making sure that they're actually speaking to the right person, coming back to that timing thing, speaking to the right person and speaking to a specialist, because it doesn't always mean IVF, and that can be a massive barrier for people taking that first step to make that appointment. I think some of the other things are, you know, we can test some of those messages really quickly in those easy to test mediums such as paid social or paid search, where there's some messaging that we think is going to resonate based on some research outcomes, and getting out there and testing that quite quickly to a very targeted audience.
Right.
Overall, fertility, as I mentioned before, it can be a very, very long and winding road. So you are talking to people at very different parts of that timeline. The time, and it's a sector where there's new people coming in all the time as well. So you can get quite a lot of longevity out of certain messages, which may appear to us to be a bit repetitive. But there's new people coming in all the time. But I just want to touch on also, it's very important for us to be speaking to healthcare practitioners. That's another big part of what we do. And I have a team on the road out there speaking to GPs and other referrers into our service and into our specialists, and making sure that they've got the right information when they're presented with a patient in front of them that maybe has had a miscarriage or is just trying to conceive and it's just not working. So making sure they have that information is important too.
Yeah, and that's an important point actually, because of course you deal in the research space, and so clinical work that you have, and you know, I know you're leaders in that space, and so providing information to the market, not just to the families potentially, you know, in their fertility or wanting to understand more about that, but obviously empowering or educating the health professionals to give the right advice.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I guess like most organisations, often the first place to look for uncovering some of those key insights is internally. You know, speak to the people that are on the coal face, talking to customers, whether it's customer service teams, sales teams, etc. I suppose in some different to you guys in terms of really listening to what your customers are telling you, and what you're hearing, and using that to inform your strategies moving forward and how you connect.
Absolutely. We speak quite a lot to our the operational side of the business, such as the fertility specialists and nursing team, science. And within my team, we have the fertility advisor. So we have a really good insight into those initial inquiries and what people are looking for, what sort of information they're after. And I do jump in and have a look at those inquiries quite a lot. I like to stay really close to that. That's really important to make sure that you're still at the coalface as a marketer and still having access to the real life stuff that's coming in the door and not just what the research might tell you. So yeah, absolutely, it's something that we are very passionate about.
Yeah.
We also see a lot coming through social. There's lots of questions that come directly to us through direct messaging and all of that. So yeah, it's great as a marketing team to have that connection with the audience so closely.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And I think that's a lesson for others dealing in niche audiences, and some of them more so than yours, is actually the ability to foster a tight community where people can be a bit more open is sometimes actually easier when you've got more discreet group of people. And so I think those opportunities to kind of, get under the hood and, deep dive into what's driving decision making, how people are feeling and thinking, and use that to inform your content and your kind of go-to-market approach is really valuable.
For sure.
Yeah. And so tell me, one of the, we talked about content earlier and the fact that you do obviously invest in content because this audience does a lot of research and they go to the big world and want to know, every last bit of information about the fertility journey. You've obviously had some really great success, some notable, success in your Modern Babies podcast series. You produced, I think, was it 2 or 3 series?
Yeah, 3 series. Yeah, so that was awesome.
Award-winning series, which is great. You've also recently launched Baby Steps, which is more to the healthcare profession.
That's right.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your investment in podcasting, particularly, and other forms of what value that has really brought to the business.
Look, I think the marketing team really takes a lot of the lead from the brand of Genea and being innovative and finding new ways to do things. So when we looked into podcasting, it was very, very new from a brand perspective, so branded content. And we felt we had the right partner in Nova to actually go ahead and give this a go. And everyone was all in, and we produced 3 amazing seasons, and we're continuing to see listens from that today.
Right.
Evergreen content, I think that's the other really important part, that we need to make sure that the content we're creating has that longevity, because we don't have the massive budgets. We're trying to make the most out of the budgets that we have and the content that we have. So yes, we saw some great results from that in terms of business growth and inquiry rates. But I think with podcasting, the important thing to know is that it's not just about build it and they'll come. You really have to invest in promotion of that podcast, particularly now because there's so many podcasts around, and you could live forever just going through the podcast listing like a Netflix scroll. So yeah, it's something that I think every time someone asks me about it, I do make that particular point, because the podcast itself may not necessarily deliver the results. It's about how to promote it.
Yeah, 100% spot on. I think that message is true of any real strategic content program, to be honest.
For sure.
It's a long game. And as equally as important as the quality of the content is, the distribution of that content is critical.
For sure.
That's something, you're right, that some people forget about. And they think the quality of the content will be enough. But of course, within such a cluttered environment, you've got to find the right mechanisms to get in front of the right people and draw
absolutely.
Then let your content do the job of engagement and loyalty. And get those people coming back. And I mean, hats off to you. You've done a great job with that Modern Babies podcast. Obviously, I assume that you've kind of taken the leap off the back of that, more B2C oriented podcast and said, okay, how do we engage the healthcare profession? I imagine with COVID, there's a few more restrictions in terms of how your field team have been able to engage. So has that been part of the decision making to launch a podcast to that audience as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not that it was never on the cards, but I think COVID's been the catalyst for so many things, and this is probably one of them for us. The MLAs, or the Medical Liaison Associates that we have on the road at the beginning of March, I think it was mid-March, we had to pull them off the road. The GPs just weren't seeing them, and they really shut down their surgeries, understandably, and something that we were not expecting. And I think it was really taking stock of how do we continue to engage with these GPs, still potentially speaking with people that are, have fertility concerns even in their telehealth consults. So how do we make sure Genea stays there as front of mind, but also they have the right information? So we worked with Board 6 and the Miss to really bring that together and produce. We've just done 5 episodes up front, and so they're all out now, and we've already seen astronomical numbers of listens. So for me, from our point of view, still being a niche audience, because you're still talking to GPs that are only really focused on women's health. And fertility is often a very, very small part of a GP's practice. So that attention is tough. So the fact that we've had such a great number of listens already with great listen through rates is just amazing. I'm really proud of it.
Great. Well done on that. That's great to hear.
Thank you.
And it touches on another topic as well. Obviously, you operate in more of a highly regulated market as well, of course, which adds another level of complexity. So not only is that a niche audience, and you've got a very sort of sensitive topic to deal with, but highly regulated, which of course restricts what you can and can't say. And how you go to market. So tell us a little bit about that. How do you circumvent some of those restrictions? How do you, whilst complying with everything, really kind of give the brand the best chance of sort of success and being able to kind of shout about your successes? I know that's something that's been a bit of a limitation in the past. How do you think about that, and how do you get creative around that?
Well, I think content has helped us with that, in the different ways that we can present it. I've also got an in-house PR manager, so she's really tasked with getting out there into the media and making sure our story is told within an unbiased environment. And so that really helps. Not that we can then go on to share those necessarily, particularly if they involve patient stories. But it's great to be able to have that as a channel for us to utilise. The other thing with the healthcare professionals, you do have a little bit more leeway. So you're considered to be able to have more frank discussions with them because they are considered to have more information about how to navigate the information that we're presenting to them. But yes, absolutely, we're very regulated with what we can say. And we know that probably around about actually more than a third of people will actually speak with other people about recommendations, connect with strangers online, and try and get information, because it is such a complex area. If we're talking about IVF in particular, you've got this complexity of the category that people are trying to get their head around. And then you've got all of this over here where people are trying to figure out what's the next step that they should be taking. Is it the right time for them to be taking that step? And so patient stories or experiences are really, really important in that whole journey. So although we feel really passionate about sharing those, unfortunately at this point in time, we are really restricted with how we can share those. But we're hoping that we can work with the category and with our regulators on how we can do this well, because the community talks quite a lot about how it provided what they needed. Stories from people that have been through it, someone like them that has experienced this thing before them. And it's so important. We're hoping we can get somewhere with that.
I mean, that sense of community and what, people, that social proof that people look for, that relatability, can't be underestimated, particularly in a category like yours. And I think it also goes some way to filter what you're getting from Dr. Google, in the sense of not everything that you read online, these people are researching a lot, they're reading an awful lot, but not everything is accurate.
That's right.
So it's a really
everyone's so different, everyone's case is so different, and I think there's this assumption that people think that there's, if you put stories out like that, people are going to think that they're going to have the exact same experience. But I really don't think that's the case. I think people are smarter than that. And I think they acknowledge that their situation is individual and they're really just looking for that connection.
That's right.
Yeah, that's human nature.
Yeah, that's right. And looking for hope, right? Looking for stories of...
That's right.
Yeah. And that actually leads us really nicely into the last kind of point I wanted to make, which is around that sense of community. And you guys are really active in fostering that. So outside of your own social channels, etc., connecting with charities in your sector, connecting with other partners who are doing good work for the fertility a group as well. Can you tell us a little bit about, I suppose, what that has brought to the table, and is that, I guess, one way of mitigating some of the restrictions that you have around engaging with the community, or do you see that as kind of leveraging the kind of audience that you have? How do you think about that piece?
We really see it as, to be honest, this is kind of where this cross section is between marketing and operations within our business, or patient experience. And although, Genea is so well known for the care that we offer above and beyond, of course, the amazing technologies that we have in our labs and the success rates that we're able to offer. But I think that care aspect is really where people remember how you made them feel. That's the stuff that people talk about long after their successful or unsuccessful journey, to be honest. It's how you work with them in the bad times that really stands out as well. So the Pink Elephants, we've been working with them for quite some time, and they're an early miscarriage support group. It's an area that really didn't have a lot of support, a lot of resources out there, and they've done some amazing work to bring that community together and provide this beautiful support network. So we work very closely with them on providing information. Obviously, we provide a lot of the medical content, but also we're able to offer our patients access to their resources and services. And then we've been working with them on a workplace program, which really is about fertility in the workplace, and how people can navigate that, because there's people dealing with infertility, dealing with miscarriage in the workplace, and they're feeling extremely isolated. And as a workplace, can you provide an environment that's supportive for them to get through that? It's a whole of life thing.
Absolutely.
Great work from fertility, unfortunately.
That's so really great points there. I mean, when you think about it, not just it makes sense, of course, given the sector that you're in and the topic that you're covering, but to be honest, it rings true for most others. People connect at a human level, they connect emotionally. That's what will link. That's the lingering memory that the people are left with. The service and the product has been delivered. It's that, how did you actually make me feel? And that's what carries the brand trust forward, and advocacy, I guess, for the brand forward. So your work in that space is really great. Well done there.
Thank you. And I think our social community we've got extremely high engagement with our social community, and the lady within my team that looks after our social content and our content partnerships and partnerships such as Pink Elephants just has a great understanding of our community, and building all of that engaging content. It doesn't come easy.
No.
So I'm very, very lucky to have the people that I do within the team, because they're all so passionate about what we do every day.
And I mean, you're right. It obviously kind of transcends the copy and the content and the services that you offer. So having that right team in place is, of course, really critical, who understand the DNA of your customer, understand what it is they're going through and what they need in order to continue that journey. Great points there. And I think for others, looking at it, their own audiences, whether it's in the healthcare sector or otherwise, how do you connect with your audience? How do you emotionally engage? That's something that we are always constantly looking to do and uncover as part of a content piece of work, right? Really understand the audience. What are their motivations? What are their triggers? what are their pain? How do we help solve those? And how does
Absolutely.
that change across their journey? Because it does change.
Yep.
And that emotional, journey shifts as well as the stage of life that they're in. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. It's been really great
No problems.
to you about the topic. But before we let you go, it's time for our segment Skip or Play.
Here we go.
So we'll kind of rattle off a few random content pieces, mostly popular culture type content creators, and get you to say if you skip or play. Prince.
Play.
The Bachelor.
Go either way. Maybe skip. Get over it.
I'm not sure if you listen to this. MI3. Podcast.
Yes, I would definitely play that one.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
I might skip today.
Oldie or a goodie. Reese Witherspoon.
Skip.
TEDx.
Play, 100%.
Definitely. Have you been paying attention? Oh, that Channel 10.
Yeah. I could take it or leave it, but
Okay.
I'll play today. I'll say play today.
Oprah.
Oh, she's a good one for celebration, isn't she? Oh, play.
Okay. And Phantom of the Opera.
Play. I play a lot of their sontrak when I played piano when I was young. So I love the music.
Emotional music. That's great. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. That's just a bit of fun. Thank you again for your time. I know you're super busy. Really appreciate your insights around that niche audience, but also other things, regulated industries and, connecting emotionally with your audience, and of course the importance of content for doing all. So thank you so much for your time and your
Thanks for having me. No, I love being part of it. I love your series. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet. And tell me, for anyone who wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Please get in touch on LinkedIn. Happy to chat about anything. And if you had any questions about how to approach some of those niche audiences, more than happy to chat.
Great. Perfect. Well, thanks again, Nicole. Hopefully we can catch up for a face-to-face drink sometime soon.
Yes.
For everyone else, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do like it, share it. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below. And watch out for our next episode, ready to drop in about a fortnight. Thanks very much.